My girlfriend is absolutely obsessed with Fallout. So I've decided I'm going to make her very own Pip-boy. For this project, I want to keep the retro futuristic look of the Pip-boy. I want to keep the monochrome display. And though the Pip-boy isn't traditionally touchscreen, I want it to be easy to navigate through the touchscreen. It needs to have some sort of item entry feature, and it needs to show the traditional special stats, as well as player health and player level. And to achieve this, we're going to be using the Raspberry Pi 3 Model B. We're going to be running Raspbian on this, and I'm going to create a Python file to run all of the key features of the Pip-boy. And to power the Raspberry Pi, we're going to be using a 3.7 volt lithium battery because we don't exactly have fusion cores yet. And I have a few of these. Um, there's one more. There it is. Since we don't exactly have fusion cores, we're going to be using lithium batteries. And yeah, I have a few of these. This one is the one that I've already picked out, and mainly because it's pretty much the same size as the Raspberry Pi, give or take like a quarter of an inch. Let me clean these up and we'll be right back. Okay, after quite literally swiping all of those onto the floor, we can continue the video. Since we obviously need a way to charge the battery, I bought a few of these 3.7 volt charging modules, but we only really need this one. This one I have pre-soldered, and this took like an hour off camera. I'm terrible at soldering, so I'm not going to embarrass myself with that footage. So we're going to use that one. And I know what you're probably thinking. This is 3.7 volts. This needs 5 volts. How are you going to run that? And for that, I got this little guy. This is a 3.7 to 5 volt 3 amp boost converter. Should supply enough power to run the 3.7 volts from this, convert it into a usable 5 volts 3 amps that the Raspberry Pi can run on. We need a way to get power from the boost converter to the Pi, and for that, it's pretty simple, just a micro USB cable with the ends of the wire tinned, so that we can solder it directly to the output of the boost converter and use that. And lastly, we need a screen. So I have this 3.5 inch touchscreen display. It should be perfect for the purposes of this project. And it connects through the GPIO pins right there. And I believe it should work perfectly. It does come with a little pin or stylus, but your fingers can work just fine. So I'm going to spend about 7 hours doing all the wiring for this, and we will be right back.
One eternity later.
Okay, and after a terrible attempt at soldering this, we can test it. So let's plug it in. Oh, we have power. Let's see if it'll go through the entire boot. Ah, there's the mouse. Hey, okay. So this is just a background that I put on here, and I still have to go in and program a Python file for the entire UI. So that's going to take a little while. But after that, we're probably going to pull a pre-existing 3D model of a Pip-boy, scale it and modify it to fit our needs. and I have this army green filament. Let me grab that real quick. I have this really nice army green PLA. I think it should work perfectly for this project. The Pip-boy, it matches the Pip-boy color pretty well. I might have to use a little bit of black spray paint to scuff it or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, for now, the Pip-boy is working just fine. Still have to go in and create the Python file, but for now, all the wiring is done, and we can get into designing the 3D model for this. Print 1 is complete, only 5 more to go. So, I've spent about a week fighting the printer. It's been print fail after print fail after print fail. And it's led me to have some parts that are less than satisfactory, but I'm pretty much out of the army green filament, and I don't feel like reprinting anything. So we're gonna roll with what we've got. It all really came down to one bolt being too tight and a bulb in the PTFE tube. But we're back on track. We're printing the last part. There won't be as many time lapses. There's only going to be about 2. So if you see, a lack of time lapses in the video, that's why. I've been just absolutely fighting this thing and trying to get it back up and running so I can finish the video. But we're back on track, and I'll see you when this print finishes. So all of the pieces have finished printing, and you may have noticed that the wiring may be a little bit different, and that's because we have added a switch. Another thing that has changed is the battery, and that's because this battery, one of the prongs actually broke off, and you may have noticed this, you may not have noticed this, but I'll show it again on the screen here. And I switched to a little bit beefier battery. I don't know if you can see it, but it's significantly bigger. I think it's around a 22 to 2500 milliamp hour battery. I'm not sure, but we have all of our parts printed and finished. So the Raspberry Pi is sitting in here, the screen is on top, the micro USB cable is plugged in and soldered to the boost converter. The charging module is wired to the boost converter, which is wired to the battery. The switch intercepts the signal from the charging module to the boost converter, so that the boost converter isn't taking the battery when the switch is in the off position. On the side here, these holes that have been modeled in, I have fitted them with M2 bolts. I just heated up the bolt on the nut, on the end of a bolt and pressed it in. And it's also been pressed in on this one. I had to change the model a little bit because this gap was smaller, so it wasn't able to compensate for the wire, but now it fits perfectly. There's only one bolt hole in here though, and I should have modeled a hole into this part which would bolt in right here, but instead of doing that, I'm going to use hot glue. It should work fine. It shouldn't be a terribly strong hold on it. So let's go ahead and go through the parts, and then we'll get into assembly. So obviously we have the main body here, which houses all of the electronics. We have the electronics cover, which goes here. We have the battery cover plate, and it fits on right here. Then we have the arm mount, which obviously goes onto the back side of your arm. We have the arm mount hinge bolt, which obviously goes through there. And then we have the arm lock, which goes into this hole and this hole. And a problem that I've found while actually testing everything was that the screen wobbles. So I actually ended up having to design this little bracket which seats in here. And I had to go through a couple of iterations to get this just right, but I have it where it sits in there pretty snugly and the screen does not move at all. So now we can get into assembly. The electronics cover, battery cover goes on first. And we can take our M2 screws with a washer and we can slot them in. And with a Phillips screwdriver, we can start to screw these in. And with the battery cover on, we can slip this wire down into the side, take our electronics cover, and we're going to take a spot of hot glue and put a little spot of it right there. And then I'm going to sit the battery cover on, grab our screw, and get our screw put in. I'm going to hold down on the electronics cover so that the glue can set properly. Remove the excess. And then we can take the back cover, and this is the part that I mentioned before that was pretty unsatisfactory. This was the best print that I had, whilst the printer was not performing at its best, and it's relatively strong. It works just fine. So that piece gets inserted between there, and then our hinge bolt gets inserted from the side and pressed into place. And then lastly, or second to last, we have the locking, the hinge lock, which slides in right there. And then the display, I'm not sure what to call this piece actually. But this piece, I have this cut out here for the ribbon cable, and it goes in like so. Takes a little bit of maneuvering to get it into the proper position. And there we go. The Pip-boy is now fully assembled. And one thing I like about this design is that when you're not using it, the hinge or the back arm plate can actually act as a stand for the actual Pip-boy. And it's a little bit heavy on the top side, which is pretty much expected. I still have to go in and paint the dials and the designed in screws. I plan to add a rads meter right here, and I have to paint in these little slits. But once that's done, I can show you the actual Pip-boy in action. Well, after several weeks of trying, a ton of plastic, smidge of paint, little bit of electronics, a ton and a ton and a ton of headache, little bit of coding, we are finally done. I have had a blast making this. It has been so fun and such a headache. And as I've mentioned before, this is for my girlfriend, and I have big chunky man arms, and she has relatively smaller arms, for lack of a better term. So I added these foam inserts with a felt covering because I couldn't care less to buy leather. Those are hot glued in place. I added the rads meter and I painted all of the screws, slits, and dials. And as you can see, I have the on-off switch, the charging port, and this is the locking bolt. I could not be happier with the way this turned out, and I'm going to turn it on in 3, 2, 1. Now, the UI that I designed for this, I designed it with Python, and it runs through Pygame, and it uses a .json file to save the data from the item entry feature. One thing you'll notice right off the bat is there is no player level, and that's just because I couldn't find a spot on the screen that it fit in perfectly. But I think that it looks great, and here it is. So, as you can see, we have the special stats: strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck. We have the player's health, 75 out of 100, because she never has full health in Fallout. She's an absolute menace. We have her username, PoBeast, and a Fallout guy. If we click over, we can see the weapon selection page. So we have the assault rifle. We have the combat rifle. We have the revolver. We have Old Faithful. We have the double barrel. And I could go in and add more weapons, but these pixel arts took me forever to do, and 5 seemed like a good enough amount. If we go over one more page, we can see the item selection page. We have stim packs, RadAway, fusion cores, caps, mini nukes, ammo, bottle caps, jet, and medics. And you can click these little arrows to increase or decrease the amount of each item that you have. And like I said, it saves these numbers to a .json file so that it can refer to that file and show the numbers for each item that you have, even if you power off the system and return it and power it back on. If we click over one more, we have the map page, and it's just a simple picture of a map. A map that's from Fallout 4 specifically, and as I've been told, it actually is perfect because you can't tell anything from the map in Fallout 4 at all. And I believe that this is just beautiful. I've had a great time making this. It's been so fun. It's been such a headache. It's challenged me. I've had such a great time, and I hope she loves it. And with that, here is a little montage. And with that, we can conclude the video. I had a blast designing this, putting everything together, developing the entire UI. It was so fun. And again, I know I've said it a million times, but it was such a headache. But in the end, I feel like it was worth it because we have a functional Pip-boy, and my girlfriend is going to lose her mind. She is going to love this. Honestly, I think her dad's gonna like it more, and he's probably gonna try to steal it from her, but that's okay. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving me a like. And if you have any suggestions on what I could have done differently or what I could have done better, please feel free to drop a comment and tell me that. And consider subscribing. I'm gonna be trying to post more videos like this every so often, and I have a low budget right now, so it may take a while. But I'm gonna try to do a few mini builds. It's something to just kind of get me going with the algorithm of YouTube. But if you enjoyed the video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'm signing off.